I don't think I've ever been this close to a camel. One hump. Some of them have two humps, and somewhere out there are some donkeys and some water buffaloes. There's a two-humper over there. But over there are the llamas and the baby llamas. And I thought I'd just like to spend a minute, share it with you. And nothing like the backside of a camel, eh? Welcome to Kermill. This is Kermill. It's from like the early 1800s, and we're going to take a little tour as my arm heals. We were at the Lazy Five that way. Kermill is right here, and there's a mill back here. There's a couple of the grindstones from the 1820s, and so that's a chronic building. Why isn't this a chronic problem with pain? And I'm going to tell you why. Because acute pain has to do with development of inflammatory components. We went through those. Elevation of substance P and sensitivity to substance P, elevation of cytokines, a lot of inflammatory agents like IL-6, interleukin 6, interleukin 1. We love interleukin 10, by the way, and other inflammatory mediators, CRP, and some of these others that can induce and continue inflammation. But why isn't mine turning into chronic pain? Well, you say, well, it's a bone, it's going to fix itself, it's going to heal. Well, I can tell you there's a lot of people out there that I take care of. They had a little thing here called carpal tunnel, and eventually they get what's called CRPS, or chronic regional pain syndrome, or they get this swollen, basically unusable limb because something went awry. It's something I see. It's not common, though. So it's not something you necessarily worry about. So what stopped bone break, bone hurt from becoming a chronic problem or a chronic building? Well, what happened is there is a lot of processes that go on to not only modulate activity, but also change the peripheral presentation and the central nervous system interpretation of that peripheral entity so that it doesn't just start accelerating. It has to do with a lot of ions like sodium, calcium, potassium, and it has a lot to do with processes. So let me pick on NMDA, that's N-methyl-D-aspartate. Acutely, we're going to see AMPA, AMPA, and no one can pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. But NMDA is usually plugged up by magnesium. And what happens with acute pain, and I'm picking on NMDA receptors for a reason, is because they become very sensitized to these excitatory mediators. One is called glutamate, and glutamate is awful. Glutamate is why you have hangovers. Glutamate is why you feel crappy after so many experiences, like hitting your head, getting involved in other situations you never thought you'd be around, like smoke inhalation, that sort of thing. You just feel awful because glutamate shows up as an inflammatory mediator in the central nervous system. So look at here. So I've got the N-methyl-D-aspartate plugged up by magnesium, and because I had an acute pain event, it's not going to be activated much. But if it is activated, calcium replaces the chemicals that would naturally be there, and then it starts becoming very sensitive to glutamate. And glutamate is one of these inflammatory mediators in the central nervous system that just keep things going. Why do we talk about gabapentinoids? Well, gabapentinoids these alpha-2 mediators, they are important at decreasing that irritability in the central nervous system. The peripheral amplification of pain by glial cells that work that way toward the central nervous system, the schwannoma, things like this, Schwann cells, they aren't always opposed. Now, glial cells are important in so many things, and don't get me going on glial cells in front of an old building because we could go on and on. But abundantly, the astrocyte, or the glial cell that is important in the central nervous system in abundance here, can be kind of turned on and turned on more than it needs to be. What glial cells do is they kind of clean up. They help with blood flow. There's different types of glial cells. There's really 3 or 4 that we know about. I'm sure there's many more. But when the glial cells going this way keep neuroinflammation going, we want to add a central mediator to decrease pain, and that would be the gabapentinoids. So that's why we use the the Lyricas, the gabapentins, that sort of thing. Lyrica is one of the newer ones, and gabapentinoids are important. They're called adjuncts. There's other meds out there that we use, and the first thing you think, oh, grab an opioid. That's not necessarily the smartest thing to do, because this tends to be resistant to opioids when it gets to the central nervous system. So we've gone from the peripheral nervous system, bone break, bone hurt, dull, achy, throbbing, C-fiber, nociception. A nociceptor is normal if it hurts, right? A delta is fast electric pain, put my hand on a hot plate, yikes, or prick my finger, yikes, whatever. But we've gone from that, where an opioid would be effective, to a process now that is being amplified in the central nervous system, is turning into a chronic process. Well, what's happened here, and why my bone break, bone hurt hasn't turned into a chronic process, is the central amplification mechanisms have not started to take over. And that's a good normal response. So, thank you. And, I'm on the mend, I'm on the heel. Yes, it hurts, and yes, I have to take something every once in a while. And prostaglandins, IL-1, IL-6, I'm mediating those with NSAIDs. Normally we take NSAIDs when we hurt, the Aleve, the Motrins, whatever. But they're non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, and that's important because prostaglandins are highly analgesic. They are highly involved in pain, both in the central nervous system and in the peripheral nervous system. I'm telling you, you give a rat a bunch of prostaglandins in the central nervous system, it'll kill them. That's how analgesic they are. So this is what I've been doing. I've been taking one anti-inflammatory, that's aspirin, right? And I've been taking another that's a Motrin-like drug. That's COX-1, COX-2, cyclooxygenase 1, cyclooxygenase 2. And cyclooxygenase 2 has a lot to do with central amplification. It's induced, so when you start to get pain, you get more COX-2. So it's a good idea to take anti-inflammatories, so that's a good adjunct to take. Oxycodone, I hate you, oxycodone, I love you. Well, it didn't really do much for me. I tried a different pain med, didn't do much, so I just quit them. NSAIDs are just fine. There's some people, and let's face it, and I get this, I really get this. You're gonna have to take an anti-inflammatory. You're gonna have to take something that's potent, like an opioid, and you're just gonna have to do it for a little while. Watch how long you take it. So it's good information to talk over with your healthcare provider. Let's not turn into a chronic building. What we want to do is heal. I'm on the mend because the central amplification mechanisms have not been turned on and activated. So here it is, 1823. Here I am in my, I guess, a little older years trying to heal. I'll heal just fine. But the point is this, all things in moderation. Don't overdo it on pain meds. Don't overdo it on activity. Listen to your healthcare provider. I'm serious. You got to keep things moving. You really do. The more you move, the more you can move. So have I quit working? I missed any work? I haven't missed any work. I probably should have taken a couple days off, but I didn't. I'm not doing anything that I shouldn't do. Common sense, that's also part of an acute injury. And I'll let you know how it goes. But for right now, we are doing okay. I'm healing. Yes, I'm still in a splint. And why didn't I get a cast? That I'll have to get that answer in a minute. And did I have to have surgery? No, thank goodness. I had good doctors taking care of me. Listen to your healthcare providers. And most importantly, get out and enjoy life. I mean, you know, there are bumps in the road in life. Get out and enjoy life. Don't turn into an old building. Okay?